A price list is one of the greatest management simplifications ever created. But if you only manage the list and forget why the prices even exist, you're no longer managing your price strategy. You're managing historical decisions. Let's fix that. My name is Alex, and I like to welcome all system architects, builders, and problem solvers to my channel. Here, we don't just talk about better systems. We build them. Back during my master's degree, I took a pricing course with Professor Dr. Klante. We had just 1 hour of pricing each week. At the same time, we spent multiple hours on statistics, marketing, and many other subjects. I still remember him pointing out how strange that actually was. Pricing is probably one of the biggest levers a company has. It can make or break a business. Yet it receives surprisingly little attention. That memory has stayed with me ever since. So here's the question for the next 20 minutes. Do you actually have a pricing strategy, or are you just managing your price lists? Before we start, let me make you one promise. Everything I share on this channel comes from real projects, real mistakes, and real experience. I don't care about productivity hacks or management buzzwords. I care about building systems that actually work. If every video gives you just one idea you can use on Monday morning, then we have both used our time here very well. Enough talk. Let's get into action. Everything here runs on one method. I call it the builder's method. 4 steps. Understand, model, leverage, build. First, you understand the system as it really is. Then you model it. You make the hidden logic visible. Then you find the leverage, the one point where a small change moves everything. And only then you build. While most people jump straight to build, we don't. Today, we are in the first 2 steps. Understand and model. Before we can improve pricing, we first need to understand the system behind it. And one of the biggest mistakes companies make is confusing their price list with their pricing strategy. Last episode, we concluded that we have to document the reasoning and not just the result. Pricing has exactly the same problem. Companies document prices, price lists, discounts, but not the assumptions and the strategy. There are 2 fundamentals every pricing strategy needs, and I'm deliberately not covering either of them today. I'm sorry. The first one is contribution margin. It's not just a finance metric. It's what gives you the freedom to make strategic pricing decisions. At a minimum, you should understand your contribution margin by product and by sales channel. Otherwise, you cannot answer one of the most important pricing questions. Where are you actually making your money? That topic deserves its own episode, and I will come back to that in the future, I promise. Another fundamental concept behind any pricing strategy is the textbook price calculation. I'm going to assume you're already familiar with it, because that's not what this video is about. If you're not, there are plenty of good resources on YouTube that explain this topic in detail. It's a well-established concept, and honestly, it's not the difficult part of pricing. So I will also not come back to that. Most business schools usually teach 3 pricing strategies as if you had to choose one. Cost-based pricing, competition-based pricing, and value-based pricing. But that's not how real companies work. Every company uses all 3 of them. The real question has never been which pricing strategy you have. The real question is, which of these three forces dominate your decisions? They are not categories, they are forces, and every company sits somewhere inside this triangle. The obvious next question is, which one dominates your pricing? Most companies have an answer. Very few have a way to verify it. So let's not guess. Let's diagnose it. This isn't a test, it's a mirror. It shows the forces that actually drive your pricing decisions today. Here is how it works. With one decision, if you had to raise prices tomorrow, which argument hits the table first? Our costs went up. That's a vote for cost. Competitors already charge more. A vote for competition. Or we deliver more value than we did before. A vote for value. One answer, and you have already revealed a reflex. Now let's do it properly, across 4 real decisions. Question 1. Setting a new price. You launch a new product. How do you decide on the first price? Cost plus margin? Comparable products? Customer value? Don't overthink it. Pick the answer that feels most natural. Your first instinct reveals your default. Question 2. Raising a price. It's time for your annual price review. What's the first argument you hear in the meeting? Our costs went up. The market has moved up. We deliver more value than ever before. Well, this is something I would really like to hear in a meeting. That's a vote for value. Again, don't think about your pricing strategy. Think about the first argument that naturally comes up. Your first instinct reveals your default. Question 3. Defending a price. This is where theory meets reality. A customer says you are too expensive. What's your immediate reaction? Let's see how much room our costs give us. Let's find out what the competitor quoted. Let's explain the value we are creating for this customer. Pressure reveals defaults. This is where the company you want to be and the company you actually are begin to separate. Anyone can talk about value. Pressure reveals what they truly believe. And I'm honest. In my own experience, I always ask for a competitor quote. Not because I want to match the price, just because I want to have the information to make my decision. My first instinct is still driven by competition. Question 4. Should two customers ever pay different prices for exactly the same product? No. Cost plus is cost plus. Or only if the competitive situation is different. Or you say yes, if the value is different, the price should be different too. Pricing consistency reveals defaults. Almost every company claims to practice value-based pricing. But if your customers, industry or markets paying all the same price, you're probably not pricing on value at all. You're pricing on cost or competition, with a value story on top of that. Hold on to that word value. In a moment, we will see how companies slowly lose it without even noticing. Now count your votes. 4 decisions, 4 votes. Maybe 3 for cost, maybe 2 for competition, maybe an even split. Whatever the outcome. That is your position inside the triangle, not where you would like to be, not where your strategy says you are, but where your decisions constantly place you. Because your pricing strategy is not defined by the PowerPoint your company presents. It is defined by the decisions you make every day. And here is what happens every single time I do this exercise with a team. I ask them one simple question: how do you price? Almost everyone answers value. Then we work through these 4 questions, and suddenly the votes tell a different story. And that is the real insight. People are rarely surprised by the result. They are surprised by the gap. The gap between the company they wanted to become and the company their daily decisions have actually created. This is the part nobody warns you about. Moving towards value-based pricing isn't something you roll out on Monday morning. It is a mindset shift. It changes the sales narrative towards the customer. It changes how marketing is positioning the products. It changes how the products create value. And it changes how finance is measuring success. Value-based pricing is not a switch. It's organizational change. Years, not weeks. So if your votes landed on cost, don't feel bad. Most companies do. This exercise was never about judging the result. It was about making the gap visible. Because you cannot close a gap you cannot see. You cannot improve a pricing strategy until you understand the decisions that are actually driving it. But that raises the real question here of this whole episode. How does a company end up acting past its own strategy in the first place? Here is the entire mechanism in one picture. And if you forget about everything else in this episode, just remember this one thing. A price sits on a price list. The list came from a calculation. The calculation rested on assumptions, and the assumptions came from a strategy. But companies maintain the top layer, the prices, not the bottom one, the strategy. So every time you update the price list, you drift a little bit further away from the logic that created it. This is the exact same problem as last episode, just on a different management system. Last time, document the reasoning, not the result. Lead management focused the outcome and lost the thinking. Pricing does the identical thing. You document the prices, the result, and you forget the assumptions and the strategy, the reasoning. And this is bigger than just pricing. Every management system is built on a specific set of assumptions. This means people maintain the operational result, which means the prices and the price list, and quietly forget the assumptions that created it. Pricing is just the clearest example of a pattern that's everywhere. Here is what that drift actually looks like in real life. Over the years, your prices became different, each for a reason. This one low to win a segment, that one high because the value really was higher. But nobody wrote the reasons down. Time passes. The people who knew them move on. And one day in a budget meeting, someone says, let's just raise everything by 3%. That's the watering can principle. Das Gießkannenprinzip. What did he just say? What's that? That's our special German word for this session. It means the same treatment poured evenly over everyone, regardless of need. Maybe you can compare it a little bit with dynamite fishing. The price list survives. The strategy behind has already been disappearing. That 3% feels harmless? It isn't. It's the moment the last trace of strategy leaves your prices. And all you have left is a price list you maintain. So how do you stop the drift? There's exactly one move that matters, and it isn't a fancier price list. It's this: document the assumptions. Not just what is the price, but why does this price even exist? The service revenue you have been expecting, the competitor you were undercutting, the cross-sell it was protecting. The moment you write down why a price exists, you stop drifting, because now every future change can be checked against the reason that created it. That is the whole fix. A price with a documented reason can be challenged, defended, or retired on purpose. A price without the document reason can only be maintained and will be forgotten over time. So where does this go? Step back and ask yourself why we ever compressed pricing into a list in the first place. Not because a list was ideal, because no human could continuously process every factor that should shape a price. The price list was a simplification forced by a human limit. The future isn't a better maintained price list. It is a system that continuously improves the decision behind every price. Instead of asking, what does this product cost? We will ask, what's the right price for this customer under today's conditions? Historically, we simplified pricing because no human could continuously consider cost, competition, customer value, purchasing power, and dozens of other factors at the same time. AI changes that constraint, but AI can only challenge assumptions that you have made transparent. That is why documenting your assumptions today isn't paperwork. It's the foundation for continuously improving your pricing tomorrow. The same discipline that prevents your pricing strategy from drifting today is what makes AI-powered pricing possible tomorrow. Document the reasoning, and AI stops being hype. It becomes a system that continuously asks one simple question. Does this assumption still hold? So let me be precise. Price lists aren't bad. They were a brilliant management innovation. They let companies scale. The problem only begins when you manage the list instead of the strategy behind it. The real question isn't, do you have a pricing strategy? It's, do your price list still reflect your pricing strategy? And here comes the question I always put at the end of my videos. What human limitation was this management system originally designed to overcome? For pricing, the answer is clear. No one could compute the optimal price for every customer under every condition. So we compressed it into a list. That limitation is exactly what's disappearing. A price list is one of the greatest management simplifications ever created. But manage only the list and forget the assumptions behind it. Then you're no longer managing your pricing strategy. You're managing historical decisions. So remember, don't document prices. Document the reasoning behind them. Now go build something better. Here is a fun one for the comments. And you don't need to share anything confidential. From your perspective, which product has pulled off the worst pricing journey in history? For me, it might be Volkswagen. Tell me yours. Let's compare. Next up, we take the same approach to sales management and why the report on your desk isn't management at all.